Okay, so we've done about 30 of these ARPG videos. Can you believe that? What a waste of life. But the unanimous fact about all those videos was that each game was pretty known and discussed by someone. It meant something to somebody. And then there was also Dink Smallwood, but today we have Ghostlore, and that must be the only audience who's into this game, Ghosts, because I surely haven't fucking seen them. And the kicker in the spheres is that this is such an awesome game. It's genuinely one of those products where you're like, I don't need to sleep that badly. I can stay up and farm a little bit more. And then you realize that you can be a werebear that attacks 200,000 times per second and you're staying up for the rest of forever. Bullet list of what's so good here before the long form list of talk and chat and discussion, deliberation and explanation is this quick summation. Great gameplay, some of the best skill development I've ever seen, great atmosphere and aesthetic, perfectly serviceable itemization, simple farming paths, multiple things you can enjoy finding. Charming shit overall, how good is that point? That's my favorite one. Also, the game looks like an N64 game and takes just about as much space on your computer. Literally, for what this game is, being under a gig of space is big, but not literally, big in a metaphorical sense. I'll help you along with the speech. I understand that I'm at a higher mesa than you. That's a plateau that's more girthy than lengthy. And it just means I'm fatter, and I don't mean I'm actually fatter. I mean I'm big, but not literally, big in a metaphorical sense. I'll help you along with the mesa. I understand that I'm a large speech. That's a series of words that means bigger, and it just means that I'm literally. You aren't finding this quality anywhere else. Most people are far better than I am. But in its size, you might find a little hint about the problem with Ghostlore, and it's a fairly unique problem, something I have rarely taken issue with. Why are we talking about this right now? This is like the ending of the video. I have some question marks to represent my confusion as to why I'm writing this part so early, and also the fact I can literally not do this, but anyway, fuck it, forget it. The problem is this game is too small and not ambitious enough. Like, literally, I just need more of this. This whole experience feels like a stupendous tech demo for the best ARPG ever made, but all it is an intense burst of joy and then it's gone. It's much like the average Seer video. But maybe, despite its length and massive mininess, through its extremely refined feeling and very enjoyable skill systems, could Ghostlore possibly be the best ARPG ever made? Ghostlore was made very recently, being a 2023 product much like the average online shit talker, and therefore has almost had every other ARPG we've talked about as a guiding light towards being the best product known to humankind. And to kick things off, this game may be a contender for my favorite skill system I've ever seen in an ARPG, and has enough depth and creativity to rival something like Path of Exile, but lacks the sheer volume of choices, which really sucks because all they did was just rip the fuck off of Kirby and the Crystal Shards, and if you know that's a game that's worth ripping off. Like, I'm so excited to explain this, I can't even decide what to mention first. I suppose classes is what we need to establish because the big reveal is that your character gets to pick 3 of these. Feral, Geomancer, Adept, Exorcist, Assassin, and Sentinel. Don't lie, you have no idea what any of those classes are good at. And that's kind of fine because they offer you a very comprehensive and simple view of every single ability in the game on the character select screen. And that might sound like,
oh, how basic is that? Where's my 6-linked bullfuck ability? It allows me to make my totems erupt inside the assholes of my enemies.
So you pick a class that looks good to you, which in my case this time is the Poison Vial class. It's more refined than hitting the earth with a big hammer. We're going for the Chemical Cockhead today. Thus begins the life of N64 looking ass. When you get into the game, you get to pick one of these 5 skills immediately by clicking and dragging it onto this large board. And you're thinking, okay, sure, typical fare of game, and you admire the 3D pixely art graphics and the music. And then combat begins and it's a tad slippery and the immediate thought is, okay, game's going in the bin. But then you get a few kills and it feels good. Fun, responsive gameplay. You toss the poison grenades and run out of mana immediately and you think, okay, again, in the bin. But then you get level 2 and then you look at this almighty wall of passive skills, and this is where the game takes a step outside the bin because this system is awesome. I think to completely and fully make your own functional build, you have to be Dr. Brain, because the way this works is that you have a skill you've selected already placed in this area, and most of the nodes are locked currently, but it has a freely opened up square now. And you have this board of tiles to freely drag and drop in, and these passives say things like affected skills deal 15% more damage and cost 15% more mana, or supported skills divide 2 more times but deal less damage. All sorts of stuff like that. Now, anything that's in the same row or column as the skill you are using is affected by those passives, so you can customize in incredibly diverse ways, and this gets wild when you have additional skills in here. Try to picture this web of shit. You have skill 1 and 2 sitting here in 2 different placements. You have 5 passives of various types that will positively impact both of these skills, but 5 others that only positively impact one skill but not the other. You have to play build your own puzzle simulator to stick them in place to make a web where you're not negatively affecting skill 1 or 2. It's like a minigame where you try to manufacture the perfect structure for these passives. Because think about it, if you have something like a wolf summon that costs 50% more mana and shoots 4 more projectiles, that does nothing, so you have to orient it in the correct way. The game has no fucking tutorial on this. In fact, the game doesn't want to tell you anything about how to build a character. It's like they didn't want to waste precious programming space by explaining the systems to you. I played the game 4 times and I still have no idea what poise does. Let's see if the dictionary dictionary helps here. Graceful and elegant bearing in a person. Well, that's good. I don't need strength. Monsters, look out. I am so fucking elegant. And that's not even getting into the glyph system, which is just like the skills system, but even more complicated, at which point you better be the Titanic thinker if you want to have any chance of making a perfect build. Don't worry, I actually like this system quite a lot. I'm not shit talking. Every level, akin to the normal skill board, you gain glyph spaces. Now, as you play, you can find glyphs of varying types and rarities which you pick up and can stick into this board. Things on the glyphs include increased attack speed, health, damage, mana on hit, mana on kill. You get the idea, more passives. Sadly, the names on these are not incredibly diverse and are like Salo and Utala and other things that my chimp-like intellect cannot fathom moment by moment. But the effects of them are always similar. Like if you're a melee damage dealer, Utala has the glyphs for minion damage and basic attack damage, so you know that's what you're looking for. You get a sense of this soon enough. But there are also major glyphs, which are little puzzle pieces that derive bonuses if you slot in the correct glyphs, like the previously mentioned Utala. So you go to your board, slot in a major glyph, and then read what benefits you'll receive from each of the mini little glyphs if they're overlaid inside. And then yeah, puzzle time, put it together, have fun. Probably take you 30 years of grinding to find the absolute nuts in terms of this board. First, you have to find the perfect glyph with the bonuses you want. Second, you have to have this NPC who will reshape the major glyph puzzle piece design, meaning you can find the right little corner of this board to stick every part in. Finally, your minor glyphs can roll their values from something pretty low to something pretty better, so you'll be hunting for that for several lifetimes. This is a perfect ARPG model. Get to it, you degenerate farming fucks. I'm one of you, don't worry. But it all works out fantastically because the game only encourages you to build flawlessly. It doesn't require it as far as I can see, which may or may not be a negative at some point down the road, but I'm starting to enjoy the charm of this game's smallosity more and more. The power you wield is satisfying because you finangled everything yourself. You put the pieces together. But I moved away from the Kirby and the Crystal Shard skill ability discussion. Forgive me, Manic Moron video again, wrapping back to that system. At level 15, you get to unlock a second class and you can pick any of the other ones you didn't choose. Now, for a first-time player such as N64 looking ass, I didn't know what I wanted. I was throwing poison vials, using glyphs to refill my mana a lot better. I had a mobility button and some decent passives. And then I saw it. If you combine the poison vial with this other class's ability, you get the poison knives, and it clicked. I saw the potential because that board with all the skill choices you had before, it's now got the potential to synergize passives with other classes. So instead of using only this passive, which makes something weaker but have a bigger area, you can also have the one that makes something stronger but have a smaller area effect. And using both of these simultaneously means you do nothing and waste your slots. Don't do that, but the possibilities start going bananas. There's also bananas in the game. Did I mention the Cool King yet? No? Okay, it's later then. It's not such a big deal. More stuff to think about at this moment. But yeah, besides making wholly original skills based on these diagrams that outline what mixes with what, you are able to use passives that your original class didn't have access to, and you can imagine there's some wild ideas here. This isn't hard to do either, and it's not like you're forced to use a combination skill. All you do is slot the two skills that mix together side by side in the grid and they become one, and you actually gain a bonus row for the synergized move, meaning you can slot in even more passives. And you can imagine there is some wild ideas here, and it made me rethink my position, and I wanted to start over and experiment, so I made PS1 looking ass and set back out to replay the game up to the point I was at and really build with some more brain power in mind. And if you know me, that's a rare occurrence. I'm not the sharpest sharp object in the sharp object depository. So now I want to be a were-tiger. I said were-bear earlier in the video. I noticed I was thinking about Diablo 2. I'm sorry, I made a mistake. Hope there's some comments about that already, but now that we're here, we are zooming across the land and I feel like a total log. Slowest were-tiger I've ever seen. So immediately I'm thinking of rectifying a few problems with this skill, which just for clarifications makes you big, have melee cleave, gain strength, gain health, run like a big toddler, all of that. The form has a timer, and when it's out, you go back to being a small being, and it has a long recharge rate. I forgot something, I suppose I'll mention it now. Here's some more nerd thoughts, but each skill has charges, and it's a severe limiting factor to being able to spam things. You need to pay attention to stuff that gives you more charges or refills charges when dealing damage, and even some really spicy things like passives that read use skill when taking damage might not consume a charge. You really can experiment with so many things, and they all functionally change how the gameplay will feel. Now I've moved on a little bit. I got some attack speed glyphs, restore charge on attack, movement speed buffs, and I'm not kidding, I'm fucking Tony the Tiger now. But then I realized some more juice, and like I said, this game has endless amounts of experimentation and discovery, but your attack speed as the were-tiger is linked to your weapon. And not only that, your weapon damage affects the werebear's damage, so basic attack damage glyphs are essential and amazing for your damage output. And since the speed of your weapon is correlated to the werebear's attack speed, with the kunai or other fast attacking weapons, I've become a lawnmower. Look at this. You move 10,000 miles per hour, you swing 50 times per second, and you just melt enemies and bosses all the same. Use synergistic classes just to get even more buffs and power, like take this sigil, right? It's normally static and can only be used in non-were-tiger form. But But then with your third class choice, you get a version which moves with you and is castable whenever. So it's just like the game keeps up this pressure of, oh, what about this? What about that? And it's fresh. It's like the produce department in here. It's absolutely pristine building. It's so expansive in terms of maybe this, maybe that just as the repetitious grinding becomes boring, you get the next thing that increases your strength, and it keeps going. All the way up to level 50, you receive a new skill in glyph space, and after that, you level up infinitely just to receive 30 health and mana per level. And that carries you forwards towards the end game, but I'll briefly mention how the story portion of the game works. Essentially, the game wastes none of its space on non-gameplay things. NPCs will talk as much or little as the game designer wanted, not even allowing you to re-talk to them after they said their piece. Everything is about rushing back to the seaside paradise town to quickly sell items, talk to people once, and then return to blasting ass. The town has a variety of people who will assist in inventory management, crafting stuff, even a haircutter in case your polygonal ass isn't looking fresh enough. The hub town is just what I like, concise, comfortable, and functional. But I do want to ask why every game ever made in this genre needs to rip off the portal design from Diablo. I feel like there's another shape or color people could go with, like an orange rhombus. Let's do that, looky there, seems great. The story is essentially an institute is sending you on missions of ghostly paranormal variety to clear out all the evil-ass demons and spirits that are having a negative effect on the various islands and wildlife populations. And it's kind of out there, but the mythological references and very real-world Chinese-inspired stuff is really quite stuff and things and is. It's good, I'm not insulting it, I'm sorry, I just ran out of adjectos. That's adjectives for Spanish speakers. Now, once you've gotten through the story and all that, you gain access to maps and Hellgates, the two endgame areas. Up to this point, fortunately, the game has been the rightish difficulty. In fact, it's quite amazing that there isn't a feeling of, you fucked up, time to start over. This is helped by the fact that you can adjust skills and glyphs anywhere forever infinitely for free. The board is just fully usable and it makes it great for trying new things out. At the same time, I never really felt like I totally bricked myself with a build and I could just rectify my problems to make the experience easier and better. You can also buy a book that fully resets all your class choices, so the game basically allows you to do anything at any time, which is actually more of a neutral point. I prefer having a character be the RPG feeling of something. Being fully anything all the time removes some of the fun, but being able to be anything at any time also gives you total access to learn and have fun with new things. So whatever, C+ idea. Anything, anyone. But it's not got the PoE mapping problem where you can beat Kitava and then just get your balls plunged up your hole. Is that phrasing better or worse for not saying a swear word in there? Let me know. I could have said ass, I didn't. Here, I definitely could die because the game doesn't offer fantastic feedback about combat, one of the biggest flaws in my opinion. You could just be melting things and suddenly the life bar goes from over there to over there in a split second. So of course you want to pursue strength, but you end up becoming a glass cannon, which means you just die to some kind of statue or a-hools. Literally, that's what they are. Look at them, flying a-hools. If it were up to me, just like, if it was my game, I would literally just have fucking assholes as an enemy. It would look like you. But as you enter maps, which are just the routine concept of a pre-existing map full of enemies with unique and increasingly hard modifiers, you gain coupons to enter Hellgates, more difficult predefined maps that don't allow you to die to complete them. Once you complete a Hellgate, your maps upgrade to become harder, and the Hellgates are the only place to receive a few crafting reagents involved in greatly improving your gear. Since we're here, we may as well talk about gear, and it's not rare, it's actually really quite good. Having read that out, that's not a Chinese accent joke, it's a brain idiot dumb man joke, so just a clarification, read the small print. The YouTuber you're watching is not trying to offend anyone. There are several rarities of white, blue, yellow, purple, and red, and only red is pre-established. The rest are just items with increasing amounts of modifiers. For this reason, item drops are actually not boring at all. I would commonly check them out or even use a blue item later into the game just because it would be more powerful in its small package than the big time purple item, because the purple item might have all the wrong statistics. It's not how big it is, it's how you use it, just like your mom always tells you. Referring to the brain, of course, you sick, twisted fucking audience. Don't worry, I am one of you. In general, the items you find have a wide variety of stats, and it can get a little janky to skim through and find if something is better or worse for you, but I found that some of the stats are ones I'm far more interested in. Whether that be damage increasers, mana efficiency, resistance, or defensives, I could just reasonably passively ignore a bunch of increases to gold find, health gain, that sort of thing. Items have sockets where you can use gems to further bolster their strength, and while it got really annoying to collect gems, you can invest in a fairly expensive item to automatically collect and store gems in a pouch for you, which was amazing. Even the tedious parts got ironed out in unexpected ways as you played. Except for inventory management, one of the worst aspects of Ghostlore. You have so much stuff dropping between crafting materials, gems, potions, food items. We'll talk about food if that's what you're waiting for. The breakfast, lunch, or possibly dinner discussion. Please hang tight. We'll get there, but on top of all that and glyphs and equipable items, and suddenly it's a complete mess. The glyphs alone take up like 80% of the inventory space, and it's really hard to skim through and read these. The drawback to them being so interesting to utilize and put on your character is having to keep track of them all the time. I only briefly mentioned it, but all of these things, including major and minor glyphs, have rarities, so that's another level of upgrade. upgrading, but imagine how much you have to fish around your bag and swap things out and drop them to keep incrementally upgrading your build. It does get excessive. The coolest part of items though is the fact that they don't have a level requirement to use. So if you're picking up all sorts of cool things that aren't for your build, you can store them in the shared stash and a brand new alt character can use them straight away. The power spike allows you to nuke things and a lot of it is fun for free. Plus it solves the age old, this item is really sick but I don't feel like making a new level 95 character to make use of it. So that point goes out to all the lazy couch sack fucks in the audience. No offense, I am one of you as well. So amazingly enough, I had such a good time playing that I had to make more characters, a true testament to this game's enjoyability. Started with Atari Jaguar looking ass and then N-Gage looking ass, where were varieties of builds using minions, using melee attacks with tornadoes that suck things into my big melee attacks, you know, all the great ideas. The minions build was actually hyper slow feeling until I realized that the synergy passive of use skill when a minion attacks and have a 40% chance to not consume a charge meant that my 8 crows could shoot out my sunlight beam attack every time they attacked, and suddenly there were flocks of absolute death, just shooting projectiles everywhere. The Link summon or whatever, he felt weak, but with the potential to make them ice links or whatever they actually are, they slap ass. But then the minions casting your attack when they attack means that the mana cost is still being applied to you, so you need things that give you lots of mana regeneration, giving you another pathway to build towards. That's called insightful, delightful, and frightful shit right there. The truly worst part of the game is the lack of enemy death and damage feedback. Sound effects don't have tremendous oomph that something like Chronicon did, so it's kind of an abstract interpretation of dealing damage and clearing screens. Still, it's not so bad, and if you can endure feeling a little slippery around, you can move very fast and have a lot of fun mowing down crowds. The damage numbers greatly help with that feedback here, something that's not typically the case. Plus, since the game could run on the Gizmondo, it perpetually has great frames per second and is buttery despite all the particles and stuff going on. Oh, and speaking of butter, you can cook food and it has a buff potential for whatever food you cook. I told you it wasn't much, but I do like the pictures of food you can make here. I mean, look at that. Overall, there's sadly not a ton of game here. It's a farming and build simulator, but that's what I actually want to praise. In this space, in the ARPG world, it's a completely inhuman desire to make a product infinitely long, and I long for the days when we would receive a game, play it, sick RPG tanks, fucking any Newgrounds game actually, and we'd love it, burn through it, and enjoy our time with it thoroughly. This is reminiscent of that, and despite not having the legs to remain in your roster of games for years on end, it is quality and deserves a spot as possibly the best ARPG ever made. I haven't said that in so long. I am excited to play the game on hardcore, record my experiences, and come back with the entire roster of possibly the best ARPGs ever made and war them against each other, and this one will be among them. Alright, it's back to something next week. I'll not give it a teaser. It's probably something. It's possibly something else, but it's not Minecraft Dungeons. Believe me, that's not the next game.